down from like 10.
Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to the 2021 Sea Pines CSA Class A Meet the Candidates live stream event. My name is Amanda Sutcliffe-Jones and I am your Sea Pines CSA Director of Communications. I so appreciate you being here. If you're joining us via the live stream, thank you for hopping on today at 2:00 p.m. If you're going to watch this meeting video at a future date, we appreciate your engagement and participation as well. Before we get started, just want to run over a couple of different things, and I have a PowerPoint to be able to do that. So I'm going to get that up on our screen. Give me just a quick moment. So again, welcome to the meeting. We are live streaming the meeting on our website, seapinesliving.com /live. And our agenda today, a welcome, a word from your moderator. We'll go through the election process reminder. We'll go through candidate introductions, candidate statements, followed by adjournment. A couple of different reminders before we get started and hear from each of our Class A candidates. The election process, a little bit different this year. We're very, very, very excited that we have been allowed the opportunity to vote online. So our Class A elections votes will be accepted both online as well as by mailed ballots. Each residential property owner, in good standing with CSA as of October 1st, 2021, which is our date of record, will receive a CSA ballot. You get one for each property owned in Sea Pines. This year, Sea Pines CSA has selected votenow.com LLC as our third-party independent elections administrator. Unique voting codes will be assigned by votenow.com, and members will have the opportunity to cast their votes either online or by completing a mailed ballot. Only one form of voting will be counted. There are 4 candidates who are running to fill 3 Class A CSA residential board of director vacancies. We ask that you vote for up to 3 candidates on your ballot, but any ballot exceeding 3 votes will be void. Cumulative voting is prohibited. The 3 candidates receiving the most votes will be elected, and per the bylaws of CSA, the newly elected directors will serve 3-year terms. Those terms will start on January 1st, 2022, and those terms will end on December 31st, 2024. The Sea Pines Class A residential director election voting period is open from 12 a.m. on November 1st, 2021 through 11:59 p.m. on December 1st, 2021. Ballots must be received by 11:59 p.m. on December 1st, Eastern Standard Time to be counted. Voting online. Your voting invitation email and electronic ballot will be sent at 10 a.m. on November 1st, which is this coming Monday, November 1st, to the primary email address on file with Sea Pines CSA as of the date of record of October 1st. And it will come from elections@votenow.com. So elections@vote-now.com. If you can safe send that email, that would be helpful to make sure you get it. But that is how those will be sent out digitally. And then we'll also be sending those by mail as well. They will be sent to the primary mailing address of our members as of that date of record, the 1st of October. And again, 1 ballot per property owned in Sea Pines. Ballots will be mailed to the primary notice of mailing on file with CSA, and we ask that you allow 3 to 5 business days for mailed ballots to be delivered through the United States Postal Service. And this information will be communicated to our members on our website, via our Facebook page, as well as through our community mass emails. Our first candidate, they're going to be listed in alphabetical order, is Larry Moshvin. Larry was nominated by the nominating committee. Our next is Bob Quinn, also nominated by the nominating committee, Tom Sharp, and Rich Spear. At this point, we will go ahead and move to the introductions from the candidates. The candidates have been randomly selected, and the first candidate to speak on their introductory statements is, just a moment, Mr. Quinn. So I'm going to stop the screen share, and we're going to welcome Mr. Quinn to the digital podium, if you will. Mr. Quinn, can you hear me? I think you might be on mute, Mr. Quinn.
I am. Okay, thank you. Yep, I was on. Okay.
All right.
You can
I'm
hear
going to
me?
go ahead and get that timer set up for you, and we'll get started on that 5-minute introduction for you, Mr. Quinn. Let's get that timer started if we can, Stephen. And when you see that timer start, feel free to speak, Mr. Quinn.
Okay, thank you, Amanda.
Yes, sir.
I am a 45-year part-time villa owner, witness to almost a half a century of growth in the Low Country. I now spend almost half the year in Sea Pines, and my grandchildren own the entire summer, earning $500 a week as hostesses. Remember, I said I am a part-time owner, as if elected, I would be the first ever to serve on the CSA board. And remember, non-residents are 60% of owners. I began my career at Pricewaterhouse. It became the foundation for everything that followed. I became a CPA and got my MBA at night, which led to the non-traditional assignments that followed. Those nationwide assignments included multiple due diligence reviews, litigation support, including testimony as an expert witness in federal court. I also became the firm's retail expert, and I taught 3 summer training classes for new hires in Charlotte, Chicago, and New York. I was recruited to A&P Supermarkets because of my involvement in the due diligence review of another supermarket chain. As controller, I was responsible for all budgeting and external reporting to the SEC and stockholders. The early years dealt primarily with organizational changes and process automation necessary to provide financial information for some 1,500 stores and cost centers in 10 days versus the previous 30 days. I was responsible for 7 regional administrative centers, subsequently reduced to 3, with work eventually sent back to 9 groups with significantly lower headcount. I fortunately recognized the law of unintended consequences in a proposed new tax law, and I personally lobbied the Undersecretary of Treasury and the chairman of the House Ways and Means and Senate Finance Committee, succeeding in obtaining the desired change. Obviously, this was a highlight of my career. I worked with McKinsey on another successful major restructuring. I developed this decision support database used for the restructuring and subsequently for capital planning, something that potentially useful for managing our infrastructure spending. I was promoted to VP, responsible for formal business plans, 3-year capital plans, and operating budgets consistent therewith. I also became the finance representative of the Corporate Real Estate Committee. I then went to FAO Schwartz, a national toy retailer, as CFO, responsible for all financial functions, including treasury and data processing. I financed the relocation to the new flagship store, including the clock you see behind me. I did some online sideline consulting for a friend in a supermarket co-op, which led to the next phase of my career. I became part-time CFO for several companies with involvement on strategic and intramural issues with the supermarket co-op and others. My focus was on lateral thinking. If that won't work, what about this? I suggested a sale of one group of stores to a non-member, thereby gaining rather than losing warehouse volume and avoiding an exit penalty. I recommended an exit penalty for another member desiring to sell stores, resulting in a sale with the member having $50 million to spend upgrading its remaining stores. Over time, I got more and more involved in dispute resolution, including many corporate divorces and litigation support. Corporate divorce is similar to personal divorce, as there are multiple perspectives to be considered. The issues are analogous to who gets the house, alimony, etc. And as usual, there are 3 sides to every issue. I represented both sides with satisfactory resolution without litigation. My work also then involved yet again to include troubled company restructuring. My role was to understand the problems and to urge management to take appropriate action while providing credibility with its lenders during the turnaround, and all but 2 of these were successful. As for professional recognition, I was a retail expert at Pricewaterhouse, qualified as an expert witness in federal court, published by the American Institute CPA on Dispute Resolution. Served as co-chair of the New Jersey Litigation Support Committee, a member of the Turnaround Management Association, and a representative to the White House conference, to a White House conference on small.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Your time has elapsed. The next candidate who has been randomly selected to provide their 5-minute introduction is Mr. Tom Sharp. Tom, welcome. Can you hear us okay, Tom?
Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate
Thank you
the
so much.
opportunity.
Yes, sir. Welcome. So thank you so
Wait
much
for
for being here today.
Wait for the timer.
We're gonna
Okay.
Yes, sir. We're going to go ahead and get that timer restarted, Stephen. And again, reminder, once the timer reaches the 0, we will cut the audio. So Stephen, if we can get that timer restarted, and then Tom, keep an eye on that.
Good afternoon, everyone, friends and neighbors. I'm thankful to be part of the wonderful Sea Pines community, and as well thankful for the many personal contributions of our neighbors and residents. I would like to do my share by becoming a member of the CSA board. We have owned property in Sea Pines for 38 years. We have been full-time residents for the past 8 years. My wife Kay and I live on Sand Hill Crane in what we lovingly call the tourist district. It works quite well for us. The ocean and the beach were the key initial drivers that brought us to Sea Pines, but now we know a much more diverse, rich, and welcoming community. In terms of background, I earned a BS in civil engineering from Case Western University in Cleveland, Ohio, and an MBA from Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas, working in finance and entrepreneurship. I was a commissioned officer in the U.S. Navy Civil Engineer Corps. My wife of 49 years, Kay, was also an officer, a naval nurse officer. We were stationed together on Midway Island in the Pacific. Just for a fun fact, Midway Island, you've heard of the Battle of Midway. The island itself is 1.5 miles long by 3/4 of a mile wide, maybe 10% of Hilton Head Island, and no bridges. We were a community of 1,200 Navy folks, 800 dependents, and 400 Navy care. After my time in the Navy, I rejoined Alcoa for a 28-year management career, Alcoa Aluminum. This career focused on international business development and the re-engineering of underperforming businesses as a CEO of different business units. This allowed our family to live in Brazil, Germany, and China. We spent approximately 16 years overseas with Alcoa. After retirement from Alcoa, I started a consulting business in the food and beverage packaging area. Another startup was Sharp Rent, where I owned and managed 20 homes that we rented to expatriate families living in Indianapolis, such as Lilly, Roche, Dow Agro. This was a very interesting experience, having lived internationally, to be able to return some of the friendship to folks living in our country. I had the outstanding opportunity and honor to serve as the commissioner of the Indiana Department of Transportation, equivalent to SCDOT that you're familiar with. I initiated and directed the re-engineering of the 5,000 employee agency. I initiated the leasing of a toll road, which gave us $3.86 billion. This fully funded a 10-year highway construction program for the state. We did not have to take any more debt. This beyond state DOTs to follow. Currently, I serve on CSA's maintenance committee and the critical infrastructure task force, which is involved in developing the 10-year, $51 million capital improvement plan for Sea Pines, roads, drainage, lagoons, and pathways. So I've had an opportunity to start to understand the workings of CSA, and now I'd like to provide some assistance and talk about that a little bit later. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. The next candidate that has been randomly selected to speak on their 5-minute introduction is Larry Moshman. Larry, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. All right, Stephen, we're going to go ahead and get that timer reset to 5 minutes. Go ahead, Larry.
Thank you, Amanda. I am Larry Mufshin, and I currently serve as the chairman of your CSA board. When I ran for election to the board 3 years ago, I spent this first 5-minute session providing a lot of information about my professional and personal background. Hopefully, after 3 years on the board, the last 2 as chairman, our community has grown to know me well enough so I can skip over a lot of that detail. I will simply note that Lois and I, my wife of over 50 years now, have spent most of our adult life in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, where we raised our 3 children. In Washington, I was engaged in the practice of law, principally representing the wireless telecommunications and computer industries in regulatory and business transactions involving the Federal Communications Commission. Today, I want to emphasize our experience as property owners in Sea Pines. We purchased our home in 2002, and beginning in 2003, we spent the next 14 years as part-time, non-resident property owners. We typically spent 12 to 14 weeks each year, mostly during the summer and around the winter holiday season. So I understand what it means to be a non-resident property owner here. We sold our DC residence and moved here full-time in 2017. So I certainly understand the issues that we face as resident property owners. In truth, I'm not sure there's much of a difference, other than the taxes one pays, which we can all look to the county to blame. As a non-resident property owner, I expected Sea Pines to be the premier community on the island each time we arrived, and we were never disappointed. I assumed CSA was doing its job, and the evidence on our return confirmed that. We found CSA to be a beautiful, safe, and security. We found Sea Pines to be a beautiful, safe, and security with amenities that no other community on the island could offer. And as full-time residents, we still feel that way. When I ran for the board 3 years ago, I emphasized my professional experience as a business negotiator, whether it was being used in a business transaction for the purchase of cellular spectrum or assets, or in a regulatory matter, working with the FCC on new regulatory approaches for burgeoning and growing technologically advanced wireless industry. I noted then my record of success in moving parties together to yes by listening and finding acceptable compromises to difficult issues. And I hope to use that approach in helping the CSA board to find solutions to difficult problems, particularly in finding funding to fix our aging critical infrastructure. In that regard, I'm very proud of the work the board has accomplished in the many areas under my chairmanship, largely by increasing the number of non-board members on all of our committees, and they then can discuss issues before they reach the board for resolution, and then providing all board members regular opportunities to consider and discuss potential solutions through task forces, committees, and workshops. Therefore, I'm running for re-election on the hope and desire that I can continue this approach as we seek solutions to a variety of funding and other issues that will arise as Sea Pines continues to move to full capacity of property occupancy. I'm hoping with my service as a board member over the last 3 years that I've gained your confidence and earned your vote for another term as a CSA board member. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. At this time, we will now welcome Rich Spear to the digital podium. Rich, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon, Rich. We'll go ahead and get that timer restarted and you can begin.
Very good. Well, I've lived in Sea Pines full-time since 1998, originally like Tom on Sand Hill Crane, and more recently now here over on Heritage Road as we downsized to avoid the rentals on the beach. Previously, I was Senior Vice President of American Express and served on 3 management positions at 3 regional banks. And I was chairman of the board of an international management consulting firm that worked with financial institutions. I've served in the boards of regional banks, finance companies, venture capital firms, private equity firms, and a number of nonprofits. I'm a past chairman of the board of directors of the Art Center of Coastal Carolina, which I think probably many of you are familiar with. and also a former member of the Junior Jazz Foundation, as well as having served both on the CSA and previously on the ASPO boards. My wife, Tammy, and I are members here at St. Luke's. And the graduate of the university that has unfortunately a losing football team, Georgia Tech. I'd love to say Georgia, but I can't. But I am a Braves fan, in case you haven't seen. And I serve on the advisory committee to the board of directors for the college for Georgia Tech. My son Trey graduated here from prep and is now at Indiana University. We have, my wife Tammy and I have 3 older sons and 2.5 grandchildren, one on the way. And that's pretty much my background. So I've only used about 3 minutes. And I think that's enough about me. So I'm done, Amanda.
Thank you, Rich. Okay, so at this point in the meeting, we will now move to the 10-minute topic of choice. The candidates can speak on whatever topic they choose to speak on, and again, have been randomly selected. A blue sky timer is appearing on the candidate's screen, so they can see their timer countdown. They are receiving warnings at the 1 minute and 30-second mark, and then if they elapse their time over, we will mute the audio. So at this point, we will now welcome in the random selection, Rich, you're back up again first for the 10-minute introduction. So Rich, we'll have you back up. Rich, can you hear us okay? I think you might be on mute.
Myself to behave, trying to behave, Amanda.
Okay.
You know, all of us here in Sea Pines are here by choice. We all have enjoyed relative success in our careers, and we've chosen to live here, in part because of the unique balance between the environment, the residential, and resort living. The next several years continue to determine how successful we're going to be as a community in balancing the inherent contention between those 3 elements. And there are contentions. In my first time in the board many years ago, the group at that time took over what was a broken CSA board and did a tremendous job of rebuilding it. And while I hate to be endorsing another candidate, Larry has done an outstanding job in getting us through some very difficult issues that we had to deal with, but don't vote for him. But all of those remain critical going forward to the stewardship that was begun 50 years ago. While Charles Favors gave us a roadmap, that roadmap's 1,000 pages long if you look at the covenants. And believe it or not, they're conflicting, and some are written on the back of envelopes and cocktail napkins. So as we address those critical investment needs that we deal with an aging infrastructure that you've heard referred to today, not only in terms of the things that we've been able to pass recently, but in terms of the challenges we have operationally right now relative to staffing and operations. We also are in a situation with increasingly older homes and the replacement of those homes. While on Sand Hill Crane, I had the opportunity to watch our house, which was built in the 60s, have a 18 bed house built on one side and a 20 house built on the other side, primarily for rentals. So there is a changing nature of the community. A significant number of people in the last year have elected to retire here, which has increased our traffic considerably. And we have significant issues to continue to upgrade the facilities and the services. You will hear continually in various forums that we continue to be understaffed in a number of critical areas. And we need to, and while we have addressed infrastructure funding, there's still significant operational funding issues that we need to address for staffing. And around us outside of the gate, not only is the ocean gate and the front gate a major issue, but the redevelopment that's occurring around us in Sea Pine Circle continue to be significant issues for us. preserving what was been made in our community that has made it unique and the reasons that each of us moved here is significantly challenging for the next several years. This is a stewardship that I would like to continue to be a part of solving and addressing. And with that, I will end 4 minutes early for you, Amanda.
Thank you, Rich. At this time, we will welcome Larry Mushman to the podium. Larry, welcome.
Thank
Hi,
you,
Larry.
Amanda.
We'll get that timer restarted for you. Give me just a quick second. If you're ready, Stephen,
I am.
thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Every election has consequences. Elections like this are an opportunity for the community to let the leadership and the community know whether they're comfortable with the direction we're taking, whether there are changes that need to be made. In our case, every 3 years, we have the opportunity to elect 3 new members. So over time, we get fresh ideas brought into place. That said, I did not plan to serve for more than 3 years when I was elected 3 years ago. But as often happens, circumstances suggest that there's an opportunity for me to continue in the role I've been playing, with the hope that I can continue to make a difference in the leadership of the community and simply as a board member thereafter. I did learn over time that solutions take time. No matter the hope and optimism that things could connect quickly, we need to do things at times very slowly so that all members of the community and members of the board have an opportunity to come up with different approaches and different ideas. In addition, new problems arise at all times. I've been serving for 2 years, and things that we didn't even think were a problem 2 years ago have become a much bigger problem, partly because of the impact of COVID, for example. And then unfortunately, we found that when people are dissatisfied with our answers and solutions, the potential for litigation is much higher than it was in the past. And so we've had to determine the risk reward factor. And we in fact have some pending litigation on some very important decisions that we made last year and what I believe were gains. So I'd like to be able to continue to follow through and see those through. During the last 2 years, as I've been chairman, I'm very proud of the accomplishments that the board has made. We took over 2 years ago in a time of immediate and full transition of leadership. Our chairman and vice chairman were no longer elected, able to serve. So we needed a new chairman. That was me, and a new vice chairman, a new executive committee. And we also had a new president. Our president had resigned, and we brought in Sam Bennett. That transition, I think, has worked extremely well. I'm very proud of the way Sam and I are able to work together on the board, at the board level with policy, and on a day-to-day management. Sam and his incredibly talented senior staff do a great job of managing. And that's made the jobs together work very well. I think it would work well if I was elected again. I've also developed a good working relationship with outside counsel. One of the things that Sam and I have determined is that we make sure that what we're doing is legal and within the constraints of both our covenants, our bylaws, and the South Carolina laws. And if that's the case, with outside counsel's approval, we are going to urge, and the board believes it's the right decision, we're going to urge the board to do it. We're not afraid to take on the fact that people don't necessarily always agree. And in fact, if the board believes it's in the community's best interest, we think it's important to do it. We're not going to kick the can down the road. That's not the style of leadership. I hope that's the leadership you're looking for, and that you'll give me a chance to continue doing that. Obviously, during the course of the year, the 2 years, we faced unusual challenges. We had months of COVID and the impact of COVID last year, which have continued to some degree this year, but were brought on last spring, where we had to make determinations as to how we would staff the community, and also how we would allow the community to work within the realm of using some of our facilities, coming through the gate. We were dealing with visitors from states that the state had actually determined had to be quarantined. So we had a lot of security issues. I think we did a great job with that. And again, our Sam and his staff did a particularly good job. We created, I think I've created as chairman, a level of communications on a monthly basis with the community that gives folks the idea of what we're doing, where we're working, and some sense of what the board is considering. I hope that's been helpful to the community. I'd like to continue that. And I will tell you, I get at least a dozen emails a month when I send out my letters, sometimes more. I do everything I can to respond to them and to make sure the staff responds. So I think I hopefully have set up a level of communication with the community that's helpful, which I would continue to do if I was reelected. Obviously, the greatest achievement we had last year was the passing of the critical infrastructure referendum. That took months. As the community well knows, we had a variety of different alternatives that we were considering, including a special tax district. We listened to the community. I'm very proud of the fact that the board under my leadership listened to the community when that was clearly not something the community wanted, but the community wanted to try a referendum. We did it. We did it successfully. And although it is currently subject to litigation and we may be delayed in being able to actually implement that infrastructure assessment, I'm very satisfied with the fact that we had well over 85% of the community support. And I think that was a strong mandate to us for fixing the problem. And I can tell you, we are going to continue to fix the problem, even if the funding is for the assessment is delayed. We had ELSA. We dealt with ELSA cleanup in a very efficient way. Anyone who's come into the community lately knows we finally got the ability to take down the gallery of shops. We cleared it. It's now a very nice looking lawn, and I think we'll be doing something with that. But over time, we've given ourselves the flexibility for up to 7 years to decide how to develop that, a major achievement. We found beach parking solutions for residents during peak season. We did a better job of securing Tower Beach, all of which I think were beneficial for residents, property owners, and for folks who also for short-term renters who had a better understanding of where they could or could not park. But we have a lot of challenges. We have, as Rich has indicated, and as you'll hear at our board meetings, our current budget barely covers the necessary compensation for our staff as it exists today. But as Sea Pines has gotten to greater occupancy, we clearly need a higher level of security staffing, higher level of maintenance staffing, and we probably need to have a higher level of compensation to be competitive, bringing people to the farthest part of Sea Pines that of Hilton Head that they come to. And so we're going to be looking, our revenue task force that's been working for several months is close to coming up with recommendations for new revenue sources. I think they will be focusing largely on the folks who are creating the additional costs, but everyone's going to have to bear some of that expense. But I think it's important to recognize that if we are going to maintain Sea Pines as the premier community on this island, it's going to take some more money. We've covered we believe the critical infrastructure needs as far past as that need has existed, but we do need to improve our operational side of our financial structure. And I'm hoping to be reelected so I can continue that process for the next year. We are going to deal with short-term rental issues. The town is looking at some restrictions, perhaps. We'll need to help implement them. But more importantly, we need to assure that our staffing is appropriate to the level of short-term rentals we have. And we have ongoing maintenance costs that have not been covered. We were lucky this year that our gate revenues were higher than anticipated, and they covered most of the coverage of the ELSA cleanup and some of the ditch work that luckily we did because we had all those rains. But that's going to be an ongoing need. So we're going to be looking at additional revenue sources, and I'm hoping I can be part of the process by being reelected. As I said, we're not afraid to act. If we need to, we will take the responsibility. If we've been adequately advised by council, we're going to act. We are not a kick it down the can board, and I'd like to continue to be leading the board next year through your reelection. As I've said many times, many people say the job of chairman is a thankless task. To the contrary, actually, I'm regularly thanked for the job we do. I think being a board member is a very fulfilling experience. It's time consuming. It takes a lot of effort, but it's fulfilling to be part of the process. And I would like to continue to be part of the process for the next several years. I hope that through the work that I've done as chairman, I've shown you a level of interest in making this community work. And I hope I've earned the confidence of the community to warrant another term as a CSA board member. I ask for your vote, and I hope you'll vote one way or the other, because voting in this election is very important. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Larry. At this time, we'll welcome Tom Sharp. Tom, if you can unmute. All right, Tom. Can you give me an audio test, Tom? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you, Amanda.
Perfect. So Stephen, if you can start that 10-minute timer for me. Go ahead,
Got
Tom.
it. All right. When I was approached to serve on the CSA board, I had a couple of questions for myself. Question one was really, what exactly does the CSA board mean? What is Sea Pines to me? And I think there were quickly three unique factors to make Sea Pines one of a kind community on the island, as we've pointed out. First, I think it's our lifestyle. We're green, green, and more green. And we have a strong all-around environmental awareness. We have an active retirement with many, many opportunities in our community in Sea Pines. Golfing, biking, walking, tennis, boating, gardening, you name it. But the key element in terms of the lifestyle to me is, as I've lived here for 8 years, is the successful, caring, concerning, watchful, friendly, relaxed neighbors. There is a spirit among the neighbors to help one another. And this is a key asset that we have. And I think this asset needs to be recognized a little bit more by the board and its structure. I think we've some areas I've heard, as people heard I was running for the board. Transparency seems to be a buzzword. I don't know, that's because we see it in the media, but I've heard a call for a little bit more open transparency on some issues. And obviously, as Larry pointed out quite well, there are ramifications and things that keeps one from putting all of the information out all the time. You know, I know this from working in the Department of Transportation in Indiana. You have to be careful of what you project. So secondarily, what is unique about Sea Pines to me is we're really a small town. And I think it's been pretty well pointed out. We are a town within a town. We manage ourselves. We are self-governing by the residents, and we have volunteer neighbors that assist the managing board. We have extensive amenities that have to be managed and work together with our residents and also with our tourists. And thirdly, we have in Sea Pines a world-class resort partner. I'll repeat that. We have a world-class resort partner. And I'm going to use the word partner. So Sea Pines Resort is that partner. Their facilities and programs are world-class. I don't think anyone can debate that. We enjoy them with convenience and pride. We point to them. They add value to our real estate property and investments. Tourist dollars subsidize our community fees. And tourists, for me, provide a seasonal jubilance to our community. To me, it's an asset. I think there's several feelings that it's not an asset. This is a problem to be solved. I believe together we should work to look at it as a partnership, which it is, and explore it from that aspect rather than a problem, if you will. So the second question I had when I was approached to consider a journey onto the CSA board is personally, where would I be engaged and would I be challenged? Experience and my management style. Common statement I like to repeat that I see too much of. When all is said and done, more was said than done. I think we've all heard that. There's a sense that we experience this a little too much. It may be our culture. It's an island culture for sure. I've worked with the town on several transportation projects, and they tend to fall into this category. I like when I hear Larry saying that we're going for action. We're going to assess the situation and based on that knowledge, take the best decision we can and move forth. In my businesses in Alcoa, in foreign countries and foreign languages, foreign cultures, one has to be a good listener, but at some point in time, a decision has to be made and we need to move forth and get on with our strategic goals. So specifically, where would I see myself initially helping the board? I think I can provide tremendous direction to the 10-year, $50 million critical infrastructure program. I've been involved on that, helping orchestrate that. It's very, very similar to the we had in Indiana after we leased our toll road. I don't consider a plan unless there are funds behind it. Otherwise, it's a dream. And I'm a real stickler on that. If we're going to have a plan, we need to understand where the funds will come from, or we shouldn't call it a funded plan. Also, we must look at the resources and make sure that we have the resources in place or the funds in place to make a plan happen. So I'm very encouraged by the work Sam and Russell and the committee's been doing on the infrastructure plan. It has an excellent start. There's a lot of work to go forth to keep a rolling program for the next 10 years. And again, as been said, we have to assess the needs above and beyond our 10-year program. And we can do that in an orderly manner. My experience in the highway department will lead quite well there. The second area that I would like to focus on, and that is, I guess it's the, what I'll call the property condition program. We have some areas that need to be tidied up a bit. We have a very good program started. I think it's focused more on the private residencies and some of the ordinances in terms of their condition and how they look. That's a good start. But I think sometimes when we look at the area next to our roads, our paths and our lagoons, the Sea Pines community can be tidied up a bit. I get on the edges. I think we can polish it up a little, and it's an area I'd like to see managed, a little more emphasis and funds put in that area. And thirdly, I would find participation in the Greenwood Gate and the Sea Pines Circle committee challenging. I can bring a lot to bear in terms of traffic circles. I understand them quite well. And the other area involved in this is the Greenwood Gate. I sense that we should be a little more technology based at this point in time. I know there was concern about the purpose of the gallery shops and why that was purchased, and part of it was I understand gate passes, or I was told. I'm not sure I have a total picture of that because I wasn't on the board, but I think we can we should be looking at technology solutions in this area that minimizes some costs, personnel costs, and if you will, and there are many options available. So those are the three areas that I think I can add some value to. I think I have some fresh insight and energy for the committee, and can ask some probing questions and help the board move forward with some strategic direction. And I would like to see the board actually work a little bit more in the strategic area and let Sam and his folks, which is an excellent staff, continue on the operational side. So I'll be pleased to help in those areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Our final candidate to speak on their 10-minute topic of choice is Mr. Bob Quinn. Bob.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yes, sir.
Let me start on my reasons for running with my long history of continuous civic involvement. I was co-chair of my town's Economic Development Council, dealing with master plan and related issues. I was also a member of the planning board, dealing with zoning, traffic, drainage, and those kind of issues. I served as finance chair at the St. Joseph's Regional Medical Center, a large inner city hospital. I'm a member of the Harbortown Yacht Club and served on a social committee. My wife Phyllis is on the board of our Twin Oaks regime. My most rewarding experience, however, was play-by-play announcer for my town's football program. I called 4 games each weekend. The Friday night games under the lights with cheerleaders and me calling as many names as possible was a big deal for those kids and for me, for which I have a very nice plaque on the wall over there. My first formal involvement with CSA began as a member of the Gate Traffic Committee, whose main purpose was to justify the purchase of the gallery property. We now know that that was purchased without appropriate due diligence, and we are approaching 1.8 million spent with little to show for it. This investment is carried on our books as part of our reserves, which is unwarranted because it is unsaleable, and has proven to be unsaleable, and it will have to be written down. Moreover, money for it was not included in the infrastructure referendum, so there is no funds to do anything significant with it anytime soon, as Larry suggested. To try to salvage some benefit, I suggested that the possibility of automated ATM type lanes for gate pass issuance, potentially saving significant costs. Alternately, we might consider it for an earlier bypass to the public's property, thereby avoiding the Seapine Circle. I was very much disappointed when the committee refused to expand its focus to include traffic at the Seapine Circle, even if I became aware of the 2016 Circle to Circle report, which indicated unacceptable delays long before elimination of the tolls in the new bridge. All 3 proposed solutions were ignored by CSA and the board, who have been asleep at the switch on this issue over the years. Again, Coligny merchants got what they wanted, and we were AOL and got nothing. I think that may be in the process of changing, but that's the story. I am currently on the Strategic Planning Committee and having difficulty getting the committee to address traffic at the circle. I believe that traffic, far worse outside the gate than inside, is the root cause of much of the dissension in our community concerning the resort, renters, and tourists. Also, a comprehensive review of the infrastructure plan is certainly warranted in this strategic plan to ensure that it deals with more than deferred maintenance on which it was originally based. This is going to be the most consequential undertaking of the decade. Furthermore, the town and country acknowledge that rising sea levels need to be addressed, and we need to consider it in our strategic plan. But then again, this is something they seem to be reluctant to do. Rising sea levels will not only increase the risk from storm surge, but also from calabogie, something few have paid attention to. Our marshes are underwater at high tide, and what will happen when water levels rise 2 feet? More importantly, will our all-important lagoon drainage system still function if water levels rise 2 feet? This is certainly something worth understanding and considering in a plan. The question being, can anything be done now to mitigate this as part of our infrastructure plan? CSA and the board have, in my mind, been terribly remiss in all this. They were not even one of 43 organizations providing to the input to the town's 2020-2040 master plan, all 400 pages of it. The previously discussed 2016 Circle to Circle report was not even mentioned. Also, a former board member is on the Beaufort County Council involved with the 6-lane bridge, which addresses traffic on 278, but not at the circle. As I understand it, the town is waiting to see how bad it gets before they might do something. The even bigger issues are community dissension and the board's insistence on secrecy. Let's start with the referendum. I know this is somewhat history, but the board was seriously considering a special tax district from the beginning. The bomb was dropped at a September 2020 board meeting. A petition for a special meeting of owners was subsequently presented to Larry Moshman with 600 signatories gained within a month. Larry has done a lot of things, good things, and he wisely saw the handwriting on the wall, and the board dropped it in favor of a referendum. Again, all this was done with limited public discussion of what was included and how it was to be financed. You realize that a special tax district approach based on valuations would have benefited low-value villa owners like myself and all residents at the expense of non-residents. A resident would have paid on a 4% taxable value, while non-residents at 6%, 50% more on the same valuation. And it should be noted that all board members are residents. I also don't think that many are aware that a $250,000 one-bedroom villa owner now pays the same as a $5 million, 20-person beach rental property. Is that fair and appropriate? To add insult to injury, the resort and commercial's additional contribution is woefully inadequate at about $120,000 or 2.5% of annual spending. Really, the resort has 7% of our properties in their rental program, in addition to their other businesses. And many of the lagoons to be dredged and stabilized are on their property. The board also does a poor job of minimizing dissension. It does not do enough to remind owners that sometimes it is what it is. In other words, some things cannot be changed, so we have to accept it and move on. It overdoes board secrecy, and we have to sue to get information we should be entitled to. Regarding gate pass access and tourists, none of the other gated communities with public facilities, whether it be Palmetto or the shipyard, restrict access to or charge anyone going to those businesses. We are the only community that generates $6 million of gate revenue. Most of CSA's operating budget and a 1,000 per owner, which is something that should be more broadly acknowledged. Enough. My reasons for running have always been traffic in the Seapine Circle, combined with the knowledge that I would be the first ever part-time resident on the board. Some have been part-timers in the past, and 60% of our property owners are non-residents. My experience on committees has been disappointing in getting serious issues appropriate attention. I see some progress, but it's still an issue in my mind. I sent extensive material on traffic and environmental issues, to all 19 members of the Strategic Planning Committee with minimal response. I'm not sure if these will be meaningfully addressed in the final plan, or if it will be another gate traffic committee situation. Infrastructure issues will dominate for the next decade, and we will need people on the board with experience in that area. Minimizing dissension and division in our community will also be a major focus if elected. I believe I have provided constructive input from the outside for years, but the question is it time to do so from the inside? What do you think? Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. That concludes our candidate introductions as well as our candidate topic of choice speeches. Let me first start by saying thank you to each of the candidates for their interest in serving the community. We so appreciate it. All the information that we've talked about will be posted on our website, which is seapinesliving.com/elections. Be on the lookout for your ballots via the United States Postal Service mail to your notice of mailing
Can you
address.
possibly constructively?
Gonna go ahead and mute you, Bob. Please be on the lookout as well for your primary email address on file with CSA to receive your emailed electronic ballot. You can choose to vote either online or you can vote by your paper ballot. Choice is yours. If you have questions, certainly reach out to staff. You can reach us at info@csacpines.com. But we appreciate your time, and that concludes